I was 26 years old when I finally understood that my entire life had been built on a lie that everyone called love. For years, I refused to see it because the truth was uncomfortable. It shattered the image of people I trusted the most and forced me to admit something even harder. I had never really lived for myself. From the outside, my family looked perfect. A caring mother, a quiet but reliable father, and me, their only child. We had smiling photos, holiday dinners, and polite conversations with relatives who always said how lucky I was, and I believed them. I grew up obedient, responsible, and quiet. I learned early that being easy made people happy. I learned that approval felt a lot like love. When I was a teenager, I dreamed of becoming an artist. I spent nights drawing, filling sketchbooks, watching interviews with painters and illustrators who talked about passion and freedom. I imagined a life where my work meant something, where I could create without fear. But every time I tried to talk about art at home, my mother sighed and said it wasn't practical. My father stayed silent, then calmly added that artists don't make real money. They told me they were just worried about my future. They said they wanted stability for me, and I believed them. I put my sketchbooks away and chose a safe path: business studies, an office job, a life that looked respectable on paper but felt empty inside. Years passed. I graduated, found a job, paid my bills, and did everything I was supposed to do. My parents were proud. They told everyone how successful I was. But every morning, I woke up with a heavy feeling in my chest. I felt like I was watching someone else live my life. At 24, I started having panic attacks. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. My heart would race, my hands would shake, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Doctors said it was stress. My mother said I was overreacting. My father said I just needed to be grateful for what I had. So I stayed quiet. The turning point came after my grandmother passed away. She was the only person who had ever encouraged my art. When I was little, she kept my drawings in a box under her bed. After her funeral, my mother asked me to clean out her apartment. While sorting through old things, I found that box. Inside were dozens of my drawings. Some were messy, some childish, but all of them were mine. On top was a note in my grandmother's handwriting. It said, "Don't let them make you small." I sat on the floor and cried for hours. That night, something broke inside me, or maybe something finally woke up. I started therapy without telling my parents. For the first time, I said things out loud. How controlled I felt. How every decision had been made for me. How guilty I felt whenever I wanted something different. My therapist asked me a simple question. When was the last time you chose something just because you wanted it? I didn't have an answer. Slowly, I began to change small things. I started drawing again just for myself. I signed up for an online art course. I spent weekends creating instead of visiting my parents. And every time I said no, the guilt felt unbearable. When my parents noticed the distance, they confronted me. My mother cried and said I was abandoning the family. My father accused me of being ungrateful. They reminded me of everything they had done for me, and for the first time in my life, I didn't apologize. I told them the truth. I said I felt suffocated. I said their love came with conditions. I said I needed space to figure out who I was without their expectations. The silence that followed was terrifying. They didn't speak to me for weeks, then months. Relatives called to tell me I was selfish. Friends didn't understand why I was causing drama. There were nights when I almost gave up, when being alone felt worse than being controlled. But something surprising happened. I started to feel lighter. I took a part-time job and spent more time on art. My income dropped, but my anxiety slowly faded. I met people who supported me without trying to shape me. I learned that love doesn't demand obedience. A year later, my mother called. Her voice was softer. She said she missed me. We talked carefully, like strangers learning new rules. Things are still not perfect, and maybe they never will be. But for the first time, my life feels like mine. And I finally understand this. Sometimes the hardest thing you'll ever do is disappoint the people who raised you. But losing yourself is far worse.